Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept the View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo...
Sunny Hostin just had a full-on meltdown on national TV after Charlie Kirk handed her a humiliation so brutal, even the live audience didn't know whether to clap or call 911. In a debate that spiraled from tense to tragic, Hostin's talking points crumbled faster than a dollar store wine glass. Kirk didn't just win. He steamrolled, leaving Hostin visibly shaken and desperately scrambling for a comeback. This wasn't a conversation. It was a televised takedown.
Gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated. What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right? For Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, as my understanding. You have Latino men actually voting more for him. And you have, black men. That was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid. And it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. Or there are meltdowns, and then there are televised implosions. So gloriously unfiltered they deserve a documentary and a candlelight vigil. Sunny Hostin's recent on-air unraveling, oh, that was the second one. A spectacle so elegantly disastrous, so impressively spontaneous, it should be preserved in the Smithsonian under when talk shows go wrong.
What did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summer.
To be fair, Sunny wasn't ambushed. There were no confrontational interviews, no surprise walk-ins, no shouting matches. Just the echo of Charlie Kirk's digital sledgehammer ricocheting across the airwaves like a wrecking ball dipped in Red Bull and algorithm juice. He didn't even need to be in the same time zone.
Racist myth that is rooted in bigotry, trying to classify people based on their skin color. If you are a racist, you have something to apologize for. If you're a white person who is not a racist, you have nothing to apologize for. And anyone who makes you apologize just based on the color of their skin, they're the racist and you're not.
Here's the modern media genius at play. Charlie Kirk dropped a prepackaged political grenade on his own platform, a perfectly edited, overproduced Smuggison video where he went after Sunny. Hostin's entire ideology like it owed him money. Facts optional, subtlety absolutely not. Dramatic infographics, slow zooms, righteous background music all checked off the list. This was less of a critique and more of a demolition. Kirk didn't just go for the jugular. He rearranged the entire circulatory system and handed it back with a side of smug fries. And oh boy, the internet ate it up.
were in the front of turning out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs, and
I think it's important that every single person that attended that turning point, every Republican speak up against the swastikas, against the flags that were waved.
You let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are
Spread faster than a fake Kardashian pregnancy. Within hours, it was trending on Twitter, clogging timelines. With titles like Charlie Kirk ends Daytime Delusion and Sunny Host hit with Reality Brick. Subreddits lit up. Comment sections exploded. Reaction channels circled it like vultures at an all-you-can-eat outrage buffet. And there it was. The View, usually a bastion of rehearsed liberal comfort, suddenly looked like a cruise ship in a hurricane. Everything wobbled, energy dipped, and Sunny Hostin, the poised pundit with a law degree and a backbone of steel, started visibly short-circuiting. Let's be clear, she wasn't screaming. She wasn't flipping chairs. This wasn't Real Housewives. It was far more brutal. It was the collapse of composure, the fidgeting, the strained smiles, the inability to maintain that carefully calibrated gravitas. Her internal monologue was practically audible. Am I being ratioed on live TV? Charlie Kirk, from the comfort of wherever he films his manifestos, was already popping digital champagne. This wasn't about facts or fairness, it was about dominance. And if humiliation had a spokesperson, it was that one clip. And Sunny was the unwilling poster child. Because here's the thing. Charlie didn't just target her arguments. He went after the entire ecosystem she represents. Educated, polished, media savvy, the kind of voice you'd expect to be unflappable.
The final point I'll say is this, is Sunny, you guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue. I'm pro-life, if people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more. And good.
And that's exactly why he did it. It's a classic Kirk tactic. Treat public figures like Twitter handles, strip them of nuance, and roast them over the open flame of meme culture. He didn't have to be right. He just had to be louder, flashier, and 2 steps ahead in the online sauce. War zone. And that, dear viewer, he was. While Sunny was still recovering from her weekend brunch takes, Kirk had already weaponized 6 viral edits, 1,000 fanboy reaction gifs, and a merch drop. Sunny's breakdown was less about losing an argument and more about being steamrolled by a freight train of performative outrage. There she was, trying to steer a daytime talk show through what she thought was a light drizzle, only to discover Charlie had turned the forecast into a media hurricane. Now the View's producers are no strangers to controversy. They've weathered walk-offs, awkward interviews, and spontaneous therapy sessions masquerading as hot topics. But this was different. This wasn't a debate. They never even got to stage 1. It was a narrative siege, an uninvited cyber invasion. And the cameras, those cruel little truth-tellers, captured it all. The subtle shift in posture. The moments where her eyes darted toward the teleprompter like it held the secrets to the universe. The way her voice, usually crisp and commanding, started to wobble like a Jenga tower on its last breath.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The wolves were already howling. Reaction videos from Kirk's ecosystem spliced her discomfort into looped montages. Conservative blogs declared it a cultural victory. Even Gen Z TikTokers got involved, remixing her facial expressions into dance memes with the intensity of digital piranhas. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk was glowing like a smug lighthouse on a foggy night. His followers hailed it as the definitive moment when traditional media cracked under the weight of new age commentary. And to be honest, they weren't entirely wrong. Because what Kirk understands, what he thrives on, is that in the post-fact world of content-driven politics, it's not about logic, it's about optics. Who looks like they're in control? Who can trigger the loudest emotional reaction? Who's got the catchier soundtrack? And Sunny, oh dear Sunny, didn't stand a chance. The second that video hit the feed, the algorithms chose sides, and it wasn't hers. This wasn't even a clash of ideas. It was a meme war, and she brought a footnote to a flamethrower fight. Let's take a moment to appreciate the artistry. Kirk, the master of smug insurgency, assembled a package so potent it didn't need to be responded to. It needed to be quarantined. It, too, wasn't commentary. It was tactical media warfare wrapped in 1080p and sanctimony.
They have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, a $200 million settlement? I think, Charlie, you could use the money, and your students definitely could too.
And it landed like a drone strike on Sunny's curated image. For years, she's built a persona of intellectual clarity and moral confidence. But none of that mattered when the internet decided to turn her into this week's piñata. It's not even that her point of view was wrong. It's that the spectacle made her look unprepared, shaken, human. And being human on TV these days, that's practically a career death wish. Charlie Kirk didn't win because he was smarter. He won because he was spectacularly brutal, and the internet rewards blood. You'd think daytime television would be safe, scripted, moderated, perfectly lit. But now it's just another battleground, and poor Sunny Hostin wandered onto it thinking she was hosting tea. No rebuttal, no defense. Just a visible unraveling under the weight of internet perception. One viral moment, and her entire demeanor turned into a case study on the psychological effects of uninvited digital warfare. And let's be honest, it was cinematic. The arc had everything. An unexpected blow, a slow descent into visible distress, and the looming realization that the cameras were still rolling. The saddest part? She tried. She really tried to hold it together.
Your achievements. How do you like the so-called uneducated now, Sunny?
Yeah, and again, by the way, rarely do you get the answer to a question in the question. And her whole question is exactly why there was a rebellion against them.
Yes.
Listen, just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. I always differentiate between knowledge and wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. I mean, or about North African lesbian poetry. Okay, that's stuff.
When your public image gets turned into a punchline, there's no elegant way to survive that in real time. Meanwhile, Kirk's victory lap was less of a walk and more of a TikTok marathon. Recap videos, Instagram reels, mugshot of smugness, and the media. Oh, the media did what it always does. Pick a side based on clicks. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion about Hostin's facial expressions, her silence, her sighs. Entire editorials were written about a woman blinking too fast on camera. This wasn't journalism. This was spectacular cannibalism. And here's the kicker. Charlie Kirk never even showed up. He humiliated someone from a different building, possibly a different zip code, through sheer online willpower. And just like that, the liberal media got a wake-up call, louder than a Florida man trying to debate a hurricane. Sunny Hostin's unraveling wasn't just one woman's bad day. It was the sound of an entire media strategy collapsing under the weight of TikTok sarcasm, Twitter trolls, and Gen Z's Olympic-level eye-rolling. The problem? She brought a constitution to a meme war. She came prepped with law school logic, while the other side brought a flamethrower, a gift library, and the internet. Oh, it feasted.
We begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo-Nazis who showed up outside.
For years, liberal media lived in the comfort of truth will prevail. The idea that if you stack enough research, sprinkle some legal analysis, and wrap it in a calm voice with a Yale degree, people will nod thoughtfully and change their worldview over chamomile tea. Spoiler alert, they won't. Not in 2025. Not when the audience scrolls past economic policy breakdowns for videos titled "Liberal Melts Down After Getting Destroyed by Common Sense" in all caps and 5 exclamation points. The rules of engagement have changed. Audiences don't want nuance. They want the political version of WWE: body slams, trash talk, and folding chairs flying across the ideological ring. Debating used to be about who had the most coherent argument. Now, it's about who can create the most viral moment. If your opponent turns you into a 10-second meme with sad violin music, you've already lost, no matter how airtight your constitutional interpretation might be. Charlie Kirk didn't roll in with a dossier. He rolled in with a digital wrecking ball. And the worst part? He didn't even need to be there. He remotely detonated the segment like a guy showing up to a boxing match via drone strike. Meanwhile, the host was left sitting in the rubble of her own credibility, blinking like someone who just realized their carefully curated resume doesn't translate into meme immunity.
They hosted a riveting event in Tampa, Florida called the Student Action Summit. Outside of the event were individuals waving flags and engaged in other activities. Well, on Monday's show, members of The View made a few comments about it.
The conservative group Turning Point USA has condemned the group of neonazis and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in.
President, open your
You
mouth.
let them in and you knew what they were.
Here's the kicker. Liberal media still doesn't know how to fight back. They're stuck in the 2000s, 10s, sipping lattes and hoping reason will eventually win out. But this isn't a courtroom. It's a circus. And if you show up with facts and decorum while your opponent shows up juggling fire and yelling into a megaphone, guess who the crowd's watching? Hostin's image took a bigger hit than a politician's approval rating after a mic leak. And not because she was wrong. Oh no, this wasn't about facts, it was about optics. She looked rattled. She looked cornered. And in this landscape, looking defeated is worse than being defeated. The internet doesn't run on justice. It runs on perception. And perception says she got steamrolled by a guy who probably rehearses his takedowns in front of a mirror next to his protein powder. And the damage is permanent, at least online. That broadcast clip has now evolved into an ecosystem. TikTok edits, YouTube breakdowns, Instagram reels with exaggerated emojis, and reaction videos by influencers who think Karl Marx is a TikTok dance. It's been remixed more times than a Drake single. Hostin's poise shattered into 1,000 algorithm-friendly pieces, and each one is being shared, stitched, and monetized by people who couldn't define due process if it walked up and served them papers.